This meeting is being recorded.
Gonna go live on Facebook. What? It says unable to add. What? Don't give me no bullshit. Um, I guess my
In
Facebook
my
is gonna be
oh
open.
my oh my
Okay. It says we're live. Got it. I'm going to my page just to make sure we're live, and we are in fact live. Okay. I will put on my glasses and act like I have some sense. We're
the glasses are
muted.
on.
Yeah. They were like I was looking over my nose.
Oh.
Um, we're good to go. All right. Greetings. Good afternoon. My
Good.
name is Dr. Giovanni Washington, and I am your Black Goddess Guide, your ancestral alchemist, and I help you harvest all of the wisdom in your ancestral lineages so that you can create a legacy of healing. And today I am here with my biz bestie, Nneka Roberts, whose last name I was about to say was the other name, who is the Ops Oracle. She's going to introduce herself in a minute, and we're going to talk about the magic of belonging. I'm super excited to have Nneka here. You may not be able to tell by our later conversation, but I talk to Nneka most days for some, at least a brief amount of time, as we are building our businesses and really creating space for ourselves and other people to change the way they work and move in the world so that we can actually change the world. Because, as I say, the external changes, the world can't change unless we change. So here we are. Nneka, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Dr. G. And everyone out there. So pleased to meet you today. So my name is Nneka Roberts, and I am the Ops Oracle. I work with coaches and creatives who are growing to seven figures and beyond. And most importantly, they want to reach millions in the world. And I help you to build your back end so that it backs your brilliance. And that includes your processes, your people, and your planning.
I love that. I always love that saying, build your back end so that it backs your brilliance. That just makes me very happy. There's something about how nicely that rolls out of the tongue and how accurate it actually is for the work that you do. So I'm going to start by reading our oracle card from the first Black Goddess Within Oracle deck. We're going to talk about Andromeda today. I'm just going to read the back of the card as we talk about the magic of belonging. So Andromeda is found in the kingdom of Ethiopia. She was chained to a rock by her parents to appease the gods. Andromeda was saved by and later married the Greek hero Perseus. She was an Ethiopian princess, though. People think she's a priest, but she's not. She was an Ethiopian princess who was later deified. Her image has been whitewashed over centuries, and her story has been conflated with that of Perseus' stories. Andromeda implores you to resist being made invisible by increasing your self-worth and knowing your value. And then her mantra, her affirmation is know your value and own your story. So, Nneka, I would love to know, where does that land for you? Because when we talked about this, you were like Andromeda. You wanted to talk about Andromeda's story. You wanted her story to be the container in which we had this conversation. So tell me about that. Tell me where it lands for you.
So I chose Andromeda. I think you and I have had a lot of conversations about this as you created the Black Oracle, the Black Goddess deck, and how so for myself, I have a deep spiritual background. I've been meditating since I was 8 years old. My dad taught me that, and I'm familiar with like the Hindu tradition, Islam, and Christianity because I grew up with those elements all around me, and then later on got into Buddhism with meditation and all of that stuff. And I was totally unfamiliar with the the entire I don't know what you call it, but the entire scope of African gods and goddesses. And so one of the reasons why your work lights up for me is because it focuses on goddesses of African descent, part of the diaspora. I got Andromeda on purpose because like we have this inside joke that my ex-husband and I used to watch Stargate, and my knowledge of Andromeda was just based on what I knew from Stargate. Like I didn't know anything about Andromeda, let alone the story of her being married to Perseus and her being from Ethiopia, and then what she represents in terms of being visible, which also is really important to me as a business owner, because I think one of the first steps that we learn in business is that we do need to become visible. We need to start talking about what we're doing and sharing it with everybody who will glance in your direction, really. Like being open and clear about the work that you do in the world and having it come out at the forefront. So part of that's the story of why I chose. So one was I really want to become familiar with the why the pantheon of goddesses in the African diaspora. And the second one was that inside joke that we have about Andromeda and Stargate. And then we have a lot of those stories. And then the third one is Andromeda spoke to me because of the visibility. And because as business owners, as solopreneurs and budding business owners, visibility is probably like one of the biggest obstacles we have to overcome at the beginning of our businesses. It's one that I see one my clients have to get really, really, really comfortable with before you can get to the point where you're making that solid money and you're able to attract the clients that you want into your business.
It strikes me, a part of the story, I've condensed their stories a bit to fit, in the back of the card. Excuse me. But the beginning of this story is that her mother in particular, Cassiopeia, was bragging about how beautiful she was. And that's what angered the sea gods. So even the beginning of her story is still also about visibility and being seen and being perceived as something that was desirous, right? In her case, it's her beauty, but I think in the business owner's case, it's like that we have good content and that we have our programs that we have transformative processes and things that really impact people's lives, and to actually put that out into the world and claim it as powerful, right? And powerful, and I think also making an invitation, like drawing people in and saying, please come partake, right? This can change your life. And it is scary. It is, it's vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's,
It,
go on.
yeah, definitely. I was saying it absolutely is. And also, um, to keep the beauty in it, right? So a lot of times I see with business owners, they're trying to become visible, but they're doing it based on other templates, other ways of being, and their own beauty isn't shining through. And so keeping your own beauty at the forefront of what you're offering and allowing that to draw in your desires and to draw in the business that you do want.
I think that's
Sorry.
really, really important about maintaining the beauty of it and the authenticity and the individuality. And I think people, maybe I'll talk for myself. Sometimes I hear the word beauty and I think of like a certain standard that I'm trying to achieve or that people are trying to achieve. But what I'm hearing you say is that beauty is actually about being your most authentic self, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not about the shade of lip gloss that you're wearing, right?
It
It's
could
being,
be.
I mean, it could be, but it's not necessarily a physical external beauty. It's about
Mhm.
being aligned spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically as well, but not just a physical beauty. I think that's what I was hearing you say.
Yes.
That's really wonderful. I like these moments, Nneka, when we get the woo. I met Nneka. Well, I don't know. I don't actually know when I met Nneka, but it was maybe 28 years ago. But one of the first engagements I had with Nneka was taking a course that she was inviting people into called Woo at Work, where she was. Well, you can talk about it. Talk about Woo at Work for a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
So this is so interesting. So I would talk about why I'm passionate about the work that I do in the world. I help establish coaches and creatives really with their back end. And the reason for that is because I really believe that there's a coaching is a new industry and it is going to become the industry that is a top employer. Like we had a tech wave and it's kind of like now we have like a not even personal development, but an actualization wave coming through. And coaches are at the forefront of that wave. And so you do own the companies of the future that are coming up.
Hmm.
But in order to have those companies be viable, profitable, healthy, because that's what a healthy company is, a profitable company. It is a company that is enriching the lives of its community, but can also hold its employees and its team. It's a well run company and well oiled. And my skill set is in business analysis and systems analysis and data analysis, like all the analysis you could think of in the back, plus project management. And so, what I want for our future is these companies that we are growing to be healthy moving forward into the world. I started in the coaching business probably officially 10 years ago with a company called Working Mystic. And the purpose of Working Mystic was to change the world of work. And I'm still doing that to this day with my new company. But I'm now called Sage Simple Solutions. Don't look up Working Mystic. I sold the domain. But with Working Mystic, to change the world of work, the idea of word work was that spirituality is not this thing that you do outside of the perimeters of your 9 to 5. And back then, I was talking to people in the professional world. And in the business world, it's not something that you do outside of the perimeter of your business. It is part of who you are and who you express through your business, not something that's kind of like outside of it, right? And so Woo at Work was about bringing your spirituality into the world of work. And also that spirituality is not this like you're a monk on a mountaintop somewhere. Like, ooh, that's not really helping any. I mean, yes, it is a little bit, but it helps a lot when a spiritual person is actually alive and walking through the world like they are a working mystic, like their woo is at work in the world. That's why I created that program. I might do a version of it for business owners. I know Giovanni's like, do a version for the business owners. It'll be the same content, but it's just the same idea of don't check your soul at the door. And as we're building these businesses, we need to be very cognizant of them, that we're not building them and checking our souls at the door, either through our visibility or when we're hiring our teams. Our processes need to be infused and imbued with that same energy that we intended at the beginning with our businesses. Everything, if we imbue everything with who we are, with our essence, with spirit, then it will come out that way, as opposed to trying to add it on after the fact. It's just very difficult to do on the back end, as we're seeing right now, or trying to change things from the outside after the fact, after they're built, after they're already there. It's almost like you have to take it down and start over. We don't want to have to do that. We want to build it
Right.
with spirit
Right.
as we're doing it.
Do you think that, I mean, I love this phrase, don't check your soul at the door. Do you think that I'm trying to make a connection here with belonging, and I'm wondering
Mhm.
because what I'm hearing you say, like if I extrapolate what you're saying to larger sort of life and walking through the world, it's it's the breaking apart of oneself that is the problem,
Mhm.
right? Whether you're in business, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a police, like whatever it is that you're doing, just a mom, or, a parent, a person just walking down the street, it's the breaking apart of ourselves and trying to fit into, like to check the boxes and fit into the squares that actually is what's creating the problems, especially when you break apart. Like, it gets even worse when you break apart the spiritual or the soul part and you really do check it at the door, because then you're just these
Mm-hmm.
fragments. Like, you're fragmented. I feel like the soul is the glue to all the pieces, right? It's the thing that
Mm-hmm.
flows through everything. Um, and I feel like if you are broken apart, if you're fractured, um, it's hard to then experience a sense of belonging or to find yourself belonging to spaces, right?
Right, right, right. You say that so well. I, f- I believe that that's part of it because you're always, it's kind of like you're afraid that your real self is gonna come pop up somewhere where you don't think it should be popping up.
Yeah.
Your real opinions, your real what you believe and hold true, your real values. Uh, Earlier this year, I talk about this, the threshold crossing.
All of it.
So okay, so earlier this year, Dr. G, we had crossing the threshold for the new deck that's coming out, right? And I was, quite frankly, I am an introvert. I'm very, very introverted. I like my own space and I like things organized a certain way. So I was very, um, what would be the word? Not afraid so much as tentative about
Apprehensive?
apprehensive about the weekend that we were gonna have. And I didn't know any of the women in the group. I knew Dr. G and I had another client out there, but other than that, I didn't know any other women that were part of the group. And so it's interesting because the work that we did kind of bonded us and glued us, but even so, I was still apprehensive going out there. And I could have decided to show up as performative Nneka, as okay, I'll just put on my armor or whatever your armor clothes are. It could be the glamorous dress, or it could be the suit that you wear. It could be anything. But you know what your armor, everybody knows what they're when they're armored up. I could have gone in armored up, and I didn't. I chose not to. I was like, I've been with these women. I want to meet some new people. I want to be open. I want to have good conversations. I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
And my experience in that weekend was that it was so funny because we all thought that we didn't belong. It's what I came out in one of the activities that we had, but it was so interesting that we all felt like we didn't belong, but here we were because we kind of suspended that for a moment. I don't know if several people in the group decided to suspend it and then it felt easier for everybody. But because we suspended that for a moment, we were able to come together and have that sense of community and really bond with each other, even if it was initially bonding over the fact that we none of us belong anywhere.
Was
It's
that a
kind of
real conversation that was happening? Like, I wasn't a party to that.
there were pieces of conversations like the night before we talked about it a little bit about belonging with other women.
Okay.
uh Several of the women at the table had the conversation of I've never really had women friends
Okay.
because of whatever the reason was. And so it was really fun to sit at a table and have a lot of, like have a conversation with a lot of women around the table. It was like 20 of us, right, that
Yeah.
night, or
16. Yeah.
more, 16 of us. And then the next day we had a conversation about the white girl. Can I say that?
Yeah.
We can edit out
Yes, you can.
being the white girl, being the white girl in the black body, or because I can speak for myself, being in corporate America for so long, even growing up in a black country, but really socialized to be British and English, which is Caucasian, and being told that I'm a white girl, or I never heard the term earlier until I was here, but being told that I acted a certain way or out of character, being a professional person in non-professional circumstances, or vice versa, being a non-professional, what they would consider a non-professional in professional arenas. We had those kinds of conversations. Like I always, for work I'm this way, and when I'm with my family I'm a different way. Now I'm not talking about, so there's a nuance between pretending to be something else in a space and having appropriate behavior or timing
Right.
or even attire for a space. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really leaving a piece of you or big chunks of you in spaces where you don't think it's appropriate to express all of you in that space, as opposed to just being a facet of a diamond. It's two different
Right.
things.
Okay. Do you want to give me
So,
an example? Is that possible?
let me give an example.
Give me an example.
So let's take this for example. So today we're doing this podcast. It's a professional, we talk every day, but we talk as friends. But this is a professional, it's a professional container.
Right.
Um, and I'm still me in this container. Now, maybe like 10, 20 years ago, I would have felt like, oh, I have to put like I have to hype myself up to have this interview. It just takes so much more energy. When you walk into meetings, I used to walk into meetings in corporate, and there was a time in corporate when I realized I can walk into meetings as myself and bring my whole self to it. But when I used to walk in and feel like, oh, now I have to be this person in charge and I have to show up a certain way that's acceptable or what I thought was acceptable, then it takes a whole lot more energy for me to be present and for me to do what I need to do there. It is exhausting, really, for me to do it. So I could have shown up here as interview Nneka, like
I love
like a
that. I
whole
love that
other
there's an
person,
interview, Nneka.
like interview Nneka, a whole other person. And yeah, I would have had a good interview. We would have had a good conversation, but it would have taken a lot of energy for me to do it. And I find now that those things don't take a lot of energy because I'm not trying to pretend to be something else,
Right.
I'm not trying to leave a part of me. I think it's even more exhausting to leave a part of me that is that spiritual side out of our
Yeah.
conversation.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. No, this is fascinating to me for various reasons. One, I didn't know that, I was trying to manage the event and, keep track of the 18 people and make sure that everyone got the hair and makeup and wardrobe and picture taken and were fed. And so I wasn't necessarily in all of these conversations, but I could have been, right? Like I
Mm,
spent my childhood and really, frankly, even my time at FAMU, being told that I was a white girl and that I wasn't
mm,
black enough, right? And then, some years later, I was traveling in Burkina Faso, which is African country, landlocked. It's in there. And I had this moment one morning where I went to one of the local theaters looking for a friend. There's a crap ton of theaters in
mm,
Ouagadougou for some reason. There's like on every block there's a theater. So this is one of the big national theaters, and my friend's father ran it. So we were meeting there to I don't know, have a meeting. And it was also a hostel. So there was a soccer team from somewhere, some other place that had come to the city for a tournament.
mm.
And when I walked in, they were like, "Hey, white girl," and I was like, "Wait, what? Excuse me?" And they were like, "Yeah, you're white," and I was like, "I am not," And this is in a place where I
Mm.
people there are so many phenotypes, right? Like I every time I went outside, I would see somebody who looked like my cousin. Like, oh, there's Shannon, there's Sean, there's Raven. Like literally everywhere I went, there was like I was like, oh my god, these are my people. It turns out they actually are my people, but I didn't know this at that point. That's where my dad's family is from. So but I'm back to the soccer players. So I'm having this conversation at 9 a.m. And I have noticed that when I wake up speaking the language, it's better. So this was a good day because I really hadn't spoken to anyone. So my first interaction was in French, and which is, more than sketchy at the time. But whatever,
Mm.
I could communicate. So we had this big, huge conversation, and we're talking all of a sudden about the transatlantic trade of enslaved Africans, which I feel like didn't really translate to the interior. Like I feel like that's a concept that's very common in Senegal and Ghana and Guinea, like where there's a coast and where the ports were. Of
Mhm.
course, people were taken from the interior, but it just I don't know. In the limited interactions I had where we were talking about enslavement, it just they were different on the interior than they were on the coast. And so I was like, you know, my people were taken from this continent and they were taken there. I was like, yeah, there's probably a white person in there somewhere, but I don't know where, right? It's nothing that it's not in the last 3 generations. It's fourth, which again, I've come to find out. Anyway, but they were insisting that I was a white girl to the point that they were like, yes, you have a Burkinabe mother, your mother's from Burkina Faso, and your father's a white Frenchman. And I was like,
Wow.
do you hear my French? Like, where do you think I live? I don't live in France. You know what I mean? Because the French people say that my French is completely African. They're like, yo, what are you speaking? And then my French, but just in general, it wasn't that great. So it was a very funny story to me that based on something, either the way that I walked or my hair, I don't think it was necessarily like my phenotypes, or their perception that I had money, right? Because I was a graduate school with fellowship money. Like there wasn't any like real money. Like if someone had married me, they would have been very disappointed. They would come home to student, right? So anyway, it was just this whole thing. I was like, I can't win. Like when I go to Latin America, again, depending on how dark I am, because the sun, I change in the sun, right? How dark I am, how heavy I am, or how thin I am, and what my hair is doing. I'm either morena, mulata, or negra, right? And I'm like, but I'm the same person. Why is my identity always changing? And why is my identity being prescribed by you? You know, you, the viewer of me, not me, the person who's living in my body. So that was a little detour. But it talks, I mean, I think it speaks to the sort of the fluidity of belonging, right? And also visibility, because what we're talking about now is a lot about, I think visibility has two sides, and I wrote a note about this here. So there's us as entrepreneurs, as women, as Black people wanting to be in the world and be seen and be taken seriously and be counted, you know, all of these things about visibility. But then there's the other side of that, and that's who's looking at my visibility, right? So in the social media space, one of the things I think that's hard about like sort of the internally motivated visibility is that you have to constantly show up, and it has to be a daily or almost everyday thing, right? Because you never know who's looking and you never know how much of it they've seen. Right. So there's, I don't know. I feel like you go back to your diamond metaphor. I feel like this is a very multifaceted thing. Belonging is and visibility are, and I think they're very closely related. Sorry, that was a long tangent to say that I'm not white. And at the end of my tirade with this soccer team from somewhere in the middle of Burkina Faso, they gave me like a standing ovation. They were like, all right, you're not white.
You are Black.
Yeah, I was like, thank you. And I didn't have a picture, which may not have helped because my mother's fairly fair skinned. Anyway, it was a whole thing. But I was just like, this is amazing. Even in Africa, I'm white. So it doesn't surprise me that you all were having these conversations, right? Because I think that it's a real, I mean, I'm 47. I feel like the 27-year-olds, like there's a very different world out now, right now, about Blackness and how it's accepted in the natural hair movement, which was, you know, I think it comes in sort of phases, unfortunately. I hope it's here to stay. But there's a way, or maybe there's just I mean, I lived in LA, there were Black people here, but it wasn't like living in Atlanta, right? And in my educational experience I was almost always the only Black girl in the class or Black person in the class until I went to FAM. And then I was like, whoa, I had no idea there's many Black people. Like I just didn't know, you know? Okay, enough of that. I'm Black. I'm Black.
It's very curious to me too, because I grew up in Trinidad, but I lived a good part of those years in New York also, because my parents had migrated to New York when I was like 6. I don't even know the number anymore. But they sent us back to Trinidad. And so whenever I went to New York, I was the white girl. And when I was in Trinidad, I was an American. And so I spent much of my childhood, interestingly, not feeling like I belong anywhere, but also able to fit in everywhere, because I never knew where I was gonna be, and so I was able to drop into whatever that culture was very, very quickly. I had just learned how to do it because of the way that I grew up. And then when I moved to the States, and I went to fam, like we were at fam at the same time. Our story, we should probably tell that too. It's
At
just
some
so
point.
funny. It's hilarious. So we were at fam at the same time, but I didn't know Dr. G at that point at all. And so when I went there, I grew up in a country that was full of black people. Like everybody was either black or in like African or of Indian descent, mostly, practically. And when I say that, I mean like 90% of the country. And so I see brown people everywhere. It was the
Yeah.
normal thing for me. It became abnormal when not even in Miami, because in Miami, all we did was hang out with Trinidadians anyway. And then, Cubans and everybody from Latin America who were some version of brown also. So when I moved to when I was at fam and they were calling me a white girl, I was just like, I don't even understand. Because like you were in Burkina Faso, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, but I'm pointing at myself now and I'm seeing how fair I am. Almost as light as the background. But I'm still a black girl. And so it's just very, very curious to me. Like you said, the perception outside and the perception from within of who you are and how you identify. I feel for myself that ability to fit in everywhere is it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
So, but it is what led me to stay so grounded and be such an advocate for bringing your whole self to wherever you are. Because no matter whatever, like people are going to perceive you however they're going to perceive you, but you have to know clearly who you are.
So this,
And I don't know that the 20 somethings are immune. I mean, I see them trying to say, "Oh, I am this or I am that," but it's really what everybody else is telling them that they are. It doesn't seem like they are at their core what they're saying that they are. It's a very curious thing to watch. It's yeah.
it's oh, so okay, we've gone down a road. I'm gonna bring us back to business for a second. This last thing that you
Mhm.
said about belonging and visibility. I want you to talk about that in terms of business and why it's important as entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs, to embrace the project of visibility. And so that would be internally motivated visibility, and then I guess also externally perceived visibility.
Um, well, first, from a business perspective, I don't know that you can be successful in this climate. I'm going to rephrase that. I would say that it would be easier, more easeful to be successful, the especially if your intention is building a personal brand. And if your business is based on your story, then you are building a personal brand. So if that's the case, then you need to show up. Generally in business, though, marketing is about sharing what you offer. It's about talking about what you sell, what you're selling. It's that simple. And most coaches are selling their ability to transform your life or their ability to help you transform your life. Guides, counselors, I would include service providers, coaches, creatives, consultants. We are all selling our ability to help you. Whether it's as a mentor and I'm guiding you along the way, and especially for mentors who are saying, I did it and I can show you how to do it, then you need to be upfront and keep talking
Yeah.
about what you're offering. Now, it used to be that visibility was all about, when people talked about visibility, the narrative was my picture, my image, my video has to show up online. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm saying whatever it is that you're offering needs to be at the forefront. It needs to be, you need to continue to be there, giving it, giving it, giving it,
Yeah.
giving it again. as Andromeda has her hands in fifth position. Just like give it over and over again. And in order to do that, you need to show up, which is be visible. That's the crux of it. That's the first pillar in your business is your ability to show up and to market. Translating those people that are attracted to you into becoming customers, that's a whole different thing. But first, they need to see you.
Yeah.
They need to see what you're offering. And to do that, being seen, it's being visible. That is key. You cannot get away from it at all. Some of my clients have tried.
She's not talking about me.
Some of my clients have tried, but
No, you're talking about it.
you're not going to get away from it.
No, it's true. It's true. And it's this part of it for me, like the difficulty with being consistently visible on social media is that, well, there's a couple things. One, my husband is sort of very anti-social media. And so as the years have gone by, I post less and less about our family, right? Which I think is actually okay, but that sort of, I don't know, that tone has sort of impacted everything I do around social media. Because then, before it became, for me, a business platform, it was a personal platform. And I was like, well, I don't want people to know where I am when I'm there. Like, I don't, like, it's dangerous. If they know that I'm in St. Croix, they know I'm not at home, right? Then someone's going to break into my house. This is literally some of the thoughts that I would have. Really, they're like my father's thoughts, but they would pervade into my head. And so there was just a way that social media became, I mean, I guess like everybody else, I would curate it, but my curation was around, like you not being in my business, my personal, right? And then as I moved into using it as a business platform, I was like, oh, it's just not something that's second nature. It's really something I've had to develop, right? Like when I was, I look at people's travel, their travel logs and they're here and they're there. And I was like, I did all this traveling also when I was in my 20s and early 30s. We didn't have phones. I was taking pictures on a camera with an SD card, and then I'd go to the internet cafe where I would pay, right, for an hour to sit and write an email. This will be this long with 9 pictures in it that I would send like once a week or once every 2 weeks. Like that was how I communicated, and only to people who were in my particular distribution list. So it wasn't like to the world. So that's another thing. And because at some point I decided that cameras, like the presence of a camera, changed the experience, right? And this is before cell phone cameras, right? But pulling out a camera, it either, like I had a lot of these instances in Brazil and also in different places in Africa. It's like you pull out the camera and then all of a sudden it's a show with the kids, not the adults, with the kids. It's like, okay, well, this is not what's really happening. What's really happening is that you guys were over there dancing and doing some kid thing that was super cute and very particular to this region. But now you're all fawning over the fact that I pulled out this camera, right? Like that, it just changed the dynamics. Or I was so worried about the picture I was taking that I wasn't in the moment and having the experience. So like instead of being in the waterfall, I was standing over there trying to get the right angle and catch the water in the right light. Like, no, go get in the waterfall. So at some point I stopped taking pictures, because I was like, I just want to be in the moment. So I have some, I guess, I don't know what to call them, like sort of behavioral blockages to social media. So I mean, it really is a thing that I've had to, and then, oh my God, the other problem with social media, I don't know why we're now talking about challenges with social media, but I then get obsessed with feedback, right? Then I start, and I think that also plays into the belong. Well, the thing I posted didn't get any likes, or it didn't, or, no one should have been watched the live, or I posted about apples one year, and it was because I had a honey crisp apple for the first time in my life, and it was the best thing I'd ever put in my mouth. And like 300 people responded to the post about apples. Right? And I'm like, I don't understand. So I think there's you have to show up. And also I think you have to use it or realize it's a tool, right? And not it's a tool for visibility, but not acceptance.
Right.
You have to, I think it has to go one way, and then coming through there needs to be some more filters. Like the responses coming back need to be filled. Like, it's like, I can't take in all of the the positivity or the negativity, right? You just can't take it all in. You have to be like, you have to use it strategically. I'm going to get off my social media high horse. But those are some of my challenges. I'm going to take a moment and just look and see if we have comments.
Oh my God.
I don't think there's any
We've been
comments.
jibber jabbering for a
We have
while.
just been talking. Oh, but your brother was watching. Oh wait, he says assalamu alaikum, and he says I don't know how to do both, but I don't know what he was talking about. That was a while ago.
Mm.
Oh, and then he says, oh no, I think he's on now. He says we're not meant to benefit from the algorithm. Hey, Nkosi, what's up? So your brother's watching. I love it.
Hi,
Um,
Kosi. Walaikum assalam.
yeah, he's giving us hearts and thumbs up. He says and he's still watching. So here we go. All right,
Good deal.
we have some comments. Thanks, Nkosi. We appreciate you. Have any questions for the Ops Oracle here, or for Giavanni, your ancestral alchemist, your Black Goddess guide? We're talking about Andromeda today. Let me see if I asked you all of the questions. So, do you have any advice, Nneka, other than just showing up? Do you have any advice on how to negotiate visibility in a world that actually is bent on keeping us invisible?
Well, yeah, so that ties into the social media rampage just now. I think so. There is visibility in business, and I guess also I don't want to draw strong hard lines here. So there's visibility in from a business perspective where it's kind of like the idea is to show up and share what you're offering. The idea is not to show up and show out because you're getting likes. You're on social media to reach an audience, to cultivate an audience, and to make sales so that your business can grow and make income. That's why you're there. So if you're clear about that, it makes social media a lot different. The other day I wrote a post and I said, here are some things I will not share on social media. I noticed also, and one of them was, you won't see me talk about every nuance of my clients on every single client when I on my clients app, because it's their story to share. And I found like even recently, like the past 3 months, I've been sharing less and less about client wins because I'm like, they're there, we're talking all the time, I'm in it all the time. The other thing was, I shared that same story about the phone, like the camera. I feel like the cameras interrupt the moment. Even if you don't stop and pose per se, but you're missing, like you said, you're there in front of the waterfall. It's majestic, it's fantastic. And you're so busy trying to get the right picture that you're missing the majesty of
Yeah.
the waterfall. So I said I won't share things like when I see golden leaves falling in late August. You won't see a picture of that because I'm actually watching the leaves fall. I'm not like doing it. I won't share what's happening in with my family, with my aging parents or my brother, my nieces and nephews. I might share like one thing you might find once every 90 days, but I am there for a purpose. And my purpose on those platforms is to share what I am offering as a business owner and to talk about it as much as possible. That is why I'm there.
Well, that brings me to a really interesting point. Tell us about your latest offer.
Oh,
Why are
okay.
you all frowned up? No, I think this is the moment. Tell us about. Here's a platform. You know, it's small but mighty. Here's a platform.
Mhm.
But tell us about. I don't. I want you to say it. I don't even want to call the name. Say the name and tell us about
Oh,
it.
so my new offer is called Magnify Your Magic. It is specifically about multiplying yourself and magnifying what you're bringing into the world, having it being offered to many other people. Oh, I got sparkles. Having it be offering it to many, many more people, and also owning that you want to make millions in the process. So the program is for the mastermind is for passionate, ambitious coaches and creators who wants their back end to support them as they're growing and as they're magnifying. So you need planning, process, people. That's what we're going to be talking about there. But it's all about being bigger, showing up, being grander, and opening yourself up to owning the space that you occupy, like Andromeda says, owning yourself and being seen. That's what it's about.
And I can say from I have hired Nneka twice, three times to be my coach, and I will say that how am I going to say this? I am wily and sometimes difficult and sometimes hard to pin down, like, and by sometimes I mean all the time. And I think I have a lot of qualities that you might ascribe to a visionary, and I live up there, but you have to do these things every day. And Inika helped me understand that structure can actually lead to freedom, and that I didn't have to that structure could lead to freedom. Period. The structure could lead to freedom, and that actually putting the structure in place was not nearly as painful as I thought it was going to be.
Mm,
So, I recommend anyone who's out there who is at a certain level and trying to get to seven figures that you check out Inika's Magnify Your Magic, because she is magic herself. I need you all to understand this. She is the ops oracle, the business goddess. I'm super excited about this, Inika. I love that this is happening for you, because I think it's
oh,
it's one of those things where we think we have to I'll speak for myself. One of the
mm,
challenges I have in visibility with around the stuff that I do is that being a business coach is I think a much easier sell, right? I think it's easy
mm,
to say I can help you make more money. Like, people understand that, they can wrap their brain around it, they want it, right? So I think it's a different kind of sell than to say I can help you with your sense of belonging, right?
mm,
But there's a magic inside of that, and I think this is where you're working at now. I mean, you're working at the
mm.
intersection of really both the practical and the magical,
And the magical.
right? But there's the magic is what makes things feel better. It's what makes you feel like you're in a warm embrace, right? It's what makes you
Mm,
um, feel like you're walking on clouds. Like, it's like you can do things, but then there's how you do things, and that's what working with Enika did for me. Like, she helped me love how I was doing things, and
mm,
that was a new experience for me. I was like, oh, I don't. It doesn't have to be a slog. Like, it can be fun. I can enjoy it. I can, it can be. Yeah, but it was a complete mindset shift for me. Mindset shift is what I was trying to say. I think it sounded a little different, but mindset shift. That to this day is something that I'm really like. What's the word I'm looking for? It's non-negotiable for me. I'm not going to do it if I don't like
mm.
it, right? I'm not going to, if it feels bad, I'm like, there's got to be another way. Like, sure, things have to be done, but they don't have to hurt to make them to
Right.
come to fruition. So that's what I would say about that. Well, Annika, it looks like we're at time. I want to know if you have, you told people about Magnify Your Magic. How can people find you? Like, where can they sign up for your newsletter? Are you still sending out your weekly?
So there are a few ways that you can find me. The easiest way is on Facebook, if you're there. On my profile, it's Nneka Roberts. Then, if you want to apply to Magnify Your Magic, let me give you that link. It's bit.ly, it's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/MYM details. And we'll probably put that in the comments so that they're there. I want to say one more thing about
Please.
Magnify Your Magic. One of the things that's very, very important to me is that I don't destroy your secret sauce or your magical things while we're putting in this structure and we're creating these systems. Systems, I think, come from you, they don't come from outside and block you in. It's very important for me that your business stays nimble and light and receptive and responsive, and it doesn't get bogged down in heaviness. And so that's what Magnify Your Magic is about. It's about making more of that sparkle, more of that joy, bringing more of that pleasure into the world, and having it route intentionally with the systems part of it, not in spite of the systems part of it.
Ashe. Ashe. I think
Yeah,
Ashe. More of what feels good.
right.
Yeah, I love it.
More work is
And
good.
Kosi wrote, really? That's the last thing he wrote, but I don't know what he was saying
What the
really.
really was for.
Yeah. So Nkosi, if you're going to give me a feedback, a little clarity on that, we can address that question. He wrote some other things too, like I guess he posts about birthdays and graduations. I'm assuming that's what that comment was about. Um, and I don't actually think he's still on. So we will, Nneka, at this point, we will we'll call it complete.
Okay.
And if you are wanting to get in contact with Nneka, check the comments for her details. And if you can't find them or can't get her, contact me and I will contact her and put you all in contact. I am Dr. Giavanni Washington, and I'm super excited to have had this time and space with your Ops Oracle, Nneka Roberts. I really want to say her name, Nneka Roberts. And we'll see you guys on the flip side. See you guys in a month at the next Black Goddess
All right.
Live. Thanks for being here.
Yay. Thank you for having me on. Bye bye.